Hello all. I'll give you a quick recap on what we discussed yesterday, and we'll start with database table creation. How to create a database table and how to maintain data in the database tables, and why we use database tables, and I'll give you some background, and then we'll create the database tables. So yesterday we discussed about data objects. So what are the data objects? Data objects are used to hold, right, data during program runtime temporarily until the program execution continues. Okay, where we save the data permanently
Database
in
table.
database tables. In the database, in the form of tables, we save the data permanently to do some calculations or to do some validations of the data, right? We need to use that data which is available in the database in our program. So we read the data from the database to our program level, where these programs will execute in which layer?
Application level.
Application layer. So we read that data from the database layer to application layer, and we can apply some calculations and display as output or in some report format. Okay, for example, if I want to see total number of sales by customer in month of September, that is my requirement. So I need to select data from transactional data from the sales tables, where customer equal to so and so, and it will get the data into program application level, where I need to do some calculations and modifications and display the output. But when we read this data to the application level, where we can keep the data temporarily in the application layer, because in
Data
application
object.
layer we are not going to store any data permanently. Okay, but during the program runtime we need to hold that data temporarily for our program calculations. So where we can keep that data?
Data
In
object.
data objects nothing but it creates a memory location in application layer to store the data temporarily during program runtime. So what are the different data objects? Variable. What is variable?
Can store a single value.
It stores a single value. So variable is like this. It's a one single value, like city name or employee name. Okay. Stores a single value temporarily during program runtime. What type of data it holds? What is the maximum length allowed for this variable? How we are going to define it?
Length. In length.
Yes, we need to mention or we need to provide data type and length. What is the data type of this variable and what is the length? Okay, we need to provide this. Okay, how to define it? How to define a variable to create memory in the application server? What is the syntax to create some
Uh,
memory space for any
Data.
value? Data,
LP.
variable name. Name can be
LP.
anything. Okay, variable name can be anything. So we always follow some naming standards. Okay, but otherwise whatever the name I'm using in lowercase, that is user defined name. You can provide any name. Uppercase letters are syntax, which you should mention as it is. Type C and length 10. So this is the syntax to define a variable. Now it will create a memory location for this LV name with data type character and length 10. Okay, for single value. Is everyone clear? There is another data object. What is it? Work area holds single record during program runtime. What is difference between record and field? What is the difference between record and a field? Record contains a complete meaningful information about something, right? Employee ID, employee name, Hyderabad. It is a record which contains one or more fields, and by combination of all these fields, we are generating a meaningful information. A record contains meaningful information. Okay, that record might contain one field or more than one field. This is called a record. Okay, so work area creates a temporary memory location to store one single record. One single record. Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And the syntax to create a work area, memory for work area is again data is the keyword in the program. We use some naming convention. Otherwise, we can use LV also. LV underscore EMP data type. We use structure or table name. Structure or table name. So this structure or table contains a group of fields, so that this work area will contains whatever the fields available in this structure or table. Okay, it creates a memory location, whatever the fields available in this structure or fields like this to store a complete record. Okay, but usually we don't use LV for work areas. We use either WA or LS, local structure. Okay, WA work area. Because whenever you look at this data object, right, you should be able to easily identify. So what type of data object it might be? Is it a variable, work area, internal table, or constant? Otherwise, you can give any name. Okay. But if you give like this, if you give name like this to the work area, in the code level in the program, when you look at this data object name somewhere in the code, what you assume, you might assume it as a variable. Okay, you need to check the complete information to understand what type of data object it is. Okay, so that's why naming conventions are very important. So this is how we define work area. Okay, next, internal table. What is internal table? Holds one or more records, during program runtime. Okay, it holds one or more records during program runtime, right? So the data in the internal table will be like this. Okay. 101 EMP name 101 Chennai. Okay. 102 Okay. So this is a internal table. So it holds one or more records during program runtime. So what is the syntax to define a internal table? Again, data statement data. Here also we follow some naming standards, naming conventions to identify what type of data object is. For example, LT means local table, or IT means internal table, EMP data. Type, standard table of, again, structure or table name, which contains group of fields. Okay, this is how we define a internal table using data statement. So it will create a temporary memory for the internal table in the program level. But how we are going to populate data to these data objects? We have constant. I forgot to mention constant, right? Constant value. Once we fix the value of the constant, we cannot change it in the program runtime. Okay, it is always same. Okay. Now, how to populate data to the data objects? You can populate by manual values in the program, or you can populate from database tables. Okay, database tables. Okay, you can populate values from the database tables, or you can populate manually also into the data objects. Okay, is everyone clear on data objects?
Clear, sir.
When we create structures and tables, so you can get more clear picture on how we use the structure and tables to define the work areas and internal tables. Okay, now let's see an internal table. How data will be populated to internal table? We can populate manually, we can add some sample data manually, or we can read data from database table and keep the data in the internal table temporary during the program runtime. right? By using a select statement. How can we read the data from database tables into internal tables? By
by
using
using select
select
statement.
statements. We can read the existing data into application level and we store the data in the internal tables by using select statements, right? To display some output, to generate some reports. Initially, how we are going to create data in the database tables? So when you first created a database table or when you purchase the SAP license, we'll get the empty standard database tables. And if you create a new database table, custom new database table, it is initially it is also empty, no records available in those tables. How data will be inserted into those database tables? I'll give you a simple example how data is going to be inserted. Let's take your bank system. So what is the first process when you need to open any account in the bank?
Application form.
Hmm. You fill the application form, you enter your name, phone number, address, email, right? And your ID proofs and everything you enter here. Not you in the sense, not you, the bank clerk is going to enter the data in the screen. When they click on submit or save, what will happen?
A record.
A program,
Yeah, it will save it in.
yes, a program corresponding to the screen, right? This front end screen, there should be a program. A application program will execute in the backend, sorry, in the application layer, right? So when they click on submit, it will send that instructions to the program. So what this program will do? Validate data, validate the data, and insert data into database tables. Okay, insert the data into database tables. If the data is valid, it performs all the validations. It performs all the validations and it inserts the data into corresponding database tables. Within the database, let's assume it as a database, corresponding tables, customer master database table. It's going to insert data into that corresponding table. Okay, is everyone clear? This program will validate the data and insert the data into that customer master uh, table. Okay.
Yes, yes.
In the database level, there will be different set of tables available for different applications. So, okay. So we are going to create different tables for different applications. And whenever we submit the data, program will take care of validating the data and inserting the data to the corresponding database table. Okay. Corresponding database table, right? So if you create a customer master record, that doesn't mean that we have only one table to maintain the complete customer master data. So this customer master data might be distributed to multiple tables also. Okay, one table it contains employee address information, and the other table it contains only employee general attributes like name, date of birth, and other details. And there might be another table. This is to maintain employee communication data. Employee communication data. Okay, we might distribute this employee master data into multiple tables. Okay, to denormalize. So okay, Usually, when we create the database tables, right, we do not create one big table to maintain everything, all the columns, right? Employee ID, employee name, date of birth, address, email ID, everything we are not going to keep in one single table. So we divide the data into multiple tables to reduce the duplicate data in a database. Okay. Sometimes you need to create same record repeated number of times. For example, one customer contains a primary phone number and alternative phone number, right? How many records we need to create in the customer master data table if we, to maintain two phone numbers? Here in the customer master record, you need to repeat that entry for two times: employee ID, employee name, phone number, employee ID, employee name, and alternative phone number. Two times, right? We do not do that. In the basic master data, we use only unique records, unique customer records. If there is any repeated data like multiple phone numbers, multiple email IDs, we separate that table data into a separate database table. Okay, and we maintain that data here. How these tables are linked? How these customer master data, tables
Yes.
are linked?
Primary.
There should be a common
Primary.
field, right? Employee ID is the common field between all these multiple tables. So all these tables are linked, right, by using employee ID as a common field. Okay, is everyone clear? So it inserts data into database tables. Now, when we read the data from database table, for example, I want to generate a report output to submit it to my manager, right, to check how many customers, how many new customers are created in the month of August. So I need to generate that report. How can I know that? From where I need to check that? To generate this information, I should check in the customer data, right? Customer master tables data, right? By checking
Yeah.
date of creation. There should be a field available in this customer master data, date of creation, right? I'll use that August 1st and August end as a selection criteria, and I am going to read data from customer masters table to know who are all the customers created in the month of August. I'm going to read data from customer masters table to generate the report output. Okay, to generate the report output. So what I am going to do here, read. Okay, I'm going to read the data from the database tables and generate a report output to know how many customers are created in the month of August. Okay, so transactions will be created through screen, and those transactions or master data will be saved in corresponding tables. And if you need to generate any reports on top of those transaction tables, we use read operations like using select statements and generate the report output. Okay, the data which is already created. Is everyone clear on how we use database tables in any application? So where this
Yes, sir.
database tables will be saved? In DB layer, database layer. Okay, this is application and this is front end GUI screen. Okay, sorry, GUI or application, sorry, presentation layer. Okay, now first we'll see how to create a database table and how to maintain some data manually. Okay, later we'll see how to insert data using a program and a screen. First we'll see how to save the data manually. Sorry. Now, to create a database table, what is the prerequisite? First, let's access the SAP system. You do not need to write any SQL statements to create the database tables. We just use navigations to create the database tables here. Okay. And again, we have a flexibility in creating SQL as well. So that we see when we are working on ABAP and HANA concepts, where we can use SQL statements to create the database tables. That's in a different environment. We use Eclipse there. Okay. Let's log in into S4 HANA system. What is the transaction code to create a database table? Do I need to log in into database to create the database tables? So to create or to access database tables, we use a concept called data data dictionary in SAP ABAP. So what do we use? Data dictionary, or in short, we call as
DDIC.
DDIC. Okay, SAP data dictionary or DDIC. So by using this DDIC, we manage or we access database objects. Okay, we manage or access database objects, including tables. Okay, so it acts as a interface. It acts as a interface between database layer and application layer. Database layer and application layer. So you do not need to log in into database to create or to access any database objects. Okay. It is a okay. It contains metadata of the database objects like tables, structures, views, data elements, and domains. Okay. So we call this as data dictionary. You do not need to log in into SAP, right? You do not need to log in into SAP to access database tables. From the SAP GUI itself, you can access the database tables by using which one? Data dictionary. Okay, it contains the metadata of the database objects. What is metadata? Can you tell me what is the metadata and data?
Metadata means data about data.
which is
Data
not
about data, that is general definition. What is that data about data?
which will not
Data
change
type
frequently.
or value.
It provides information about that value. For example, if you take employee ID column, it provides details about that employee ID column, what type of data it is, what is the length, right? Where it is being used, right? What is the property of that value? It provides all that information. That metadata provides all that information. Okay,
Yes, yes.
clear? Data means the actual value, the name, the employee name is the actual data, right? Metadata means details about that value. Okay, details about that value. What is the data type of that employee name? What is the maximum length of that employee ID name? Right? What is the structure of that employee ID name? Right? It contains all these details that we called as a metadata. Okay. For example, if you take employee ID, metadata will be like what is the data type of the employee ID? What is the length of the employee ID? Is it a primary key or not? All these details we call as metadata. Okay, is everyone clear?
Yes, sir. It means it is a variable, right?
No, no, it's not a variable. It's just information. Okay, it's just information about the column, table column. Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, got it.
let's see tables, database tables. How we access database tables in SAP?
Using data dictionary.
Using data dictionary. But where these database tables are actually available?
Database.
These database tables are available in the database table in the form of tables, right? The information is stored in the form of tables. But how can we access these database tables? You do not need to go into HANA, Oracle, or MS SQL server. You do not need to log in into those to access your database table. You can simply access from GUI using a data dictionary transaction code. Okay, but when you create the table, it is actually creating table in the backend database only. Okay, but you don't need to have access to the backend database to access the database tables. We can access through data dictionary. Okay, what is a table? What is a table? What is a database table?
Yeah, it can store the.
Contain
It stores the data.
Stores the data
rows and columns.
in the form of
Uh, Records.
rows and
Columns.
columns. So the combination of rows and columns form a record. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is it permanent or temporary? Whatever the data that is available in the database tables.
Permanent.
Yes. So
Permanent, sir.
whatever the
Permanent.
data available in database tables, okay, the data will be stored permanently. Okay. What about internal table?
It is temporary.
Yes, temporarily only during program
Program runtime.
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 Okay. We keep the data in the program level temporarily during the program runtime using internal tables work areas. But in the database tables, it stores the data permanently.
Switch.
Hmm. Now, what does this table contains?
Yeah, rows and columns.
Rows
Rows
and
and
columns.
columns. We provide fields. It contains fields and at least one field should be a which one? Primary
Primary
key.
key.
At least one field should be a primary key, that is mandatory. So why we use primary key?
To refer the another tables.
Not another tables. To maintain the unique data.
Unique.
To maintain the unique data. Okay. So we can uniquely identify the database tables using.
Primary key.
So it is used to maintain the unique data so that, for example, you are creating a record for employee master data, right? Employee ID is unique or repeated value. If you take any company, can you find a employee with same multiple employees with same employee ID?
No, sir.
No.
Multiple employees with same name?
Yes,
Yeah,
possible.
it might be.
That is possible, right? Usually
Yes.
surnames and all this will be different, but there is a chance that multiple employees might have same surname and name, right?
Yes, sir.
But employee ID, that is unique, right? So to maintain the unique data, we need to keep employee ID as a primary key so that it won't allow duplicate data. So it won't allow one more record with the same employee ID in the table. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it won't allow one more record with the same employee ID in the database table. Okay. How many primary keys can be used? Is it only one?
Yes,
Right
sir.
box.
Maximum 16 primary keys are allowed. Maximum 16 primary keys are allowed. Okay. You can make 16 columns as a primary key in one single table. What will happen if you make multiple primary keys? If you create a table with multiple primary keys, I'll show you a simple example. How primary keys are very important. You need to understand. Let's assume EMP ID, EMP name, DEPT, city, phone. This has a database table. Let's assume employee ID is the primary key. I'll mark it with some different color. Let's assume employee ID is the primary key. Now I'm going to maintain some data, name of 100. Department is SAP. Some phone number. Rest of the columns are not primary keys, normal columns in the table. Okay. Now tell me, are these two records are unique records or duplicate records?
Unique records.
These are unique records. Yes. Now tell me, is there any duplicate record in this table?
Yes, sir. Salesforce.
It doesn't
So
allow.
this third record is a duplicate record. That's what you are saying, right?
Yes, sir.
Why you are saying this as a duplicate record?
Same employee ID.
Same
Primary
employee,
key.
but these details are different, right?
Yes.
Department, city. Is it still a duplicate record?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
it is a duplicate record because here what is the primary key?
Employee
Employee.
ID.
Employee ID is the primary key. So it uniquely identifies records by only employee ID. Now let's assume department is also a primary key. One more primary key in the table. Now there are two primary keys in the database table. Now tell me, is there any duplicate record in the table?
No, sir.
No. Why? Because
Because of the
there are two
yeah.
primary keys. Now we need to check a combination of these two columns. Is there any repeated value, right, in these two columns? 100 SAP, 101 Java, 100 Salesforce. This value is different, right? Employee ID is same, but department value is different. So it will check by these two fields combination. Okay, it check by these two fields combination to find duplicate records in the table. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
Now there is one more primary key, third primary key. Now again it will check based on three fields combination to identify the duplicate records. Okay, so if you are keep on increasing the primary keys, right, the table is going to accept more records, multiple records. Okay, it's going to increase the data value in the table if you keep on increasing the primary keys. That's why defining primary keys are very important. Okay, you should not provide unnecessary primary keys, or you should not ignore columns which should be a primary key. Okay, for example, if I need to maintain only unique employee IDs, what should be the primary key in this table?
EM.
Employee ID, right? If you make department is also a primary key, when you are going to do that, when you need to maintain multiple departments of the same employee. If one employee is working in multiple departments where you need to maintain the data in the database, then you need to make employee ID and department both as primary keys. Okay, if you need to
Yeah.
maintain only unique data, separate this table into a different database table. Okay, separate this table into a different database table where employee ID and departments as the primary keys. Okay, remove department data from the master employee master table, create a separate table to maintain the employee departments. Now what is the common field between both tables to identify what is the department of the employee? 100.
Yeah, SAP sales.
Here employee ID is the common field, right? By
Yes,
looking
sir.
at this department, you can find what are all the departments this employee ID 100 is working. Okay,
Yes, sir.
clear?
Yes, sir.
If you combine these two tables, the output will be there will be a repeated record for 100 with multiple departments. Okay, clear? Is everyone clear about primary keys?
Yes, sir.
Now let's create a simple table. What is the transaction code? Sorry, let me mention the transaction code. What is the transaction code for a data dictionary?
SC11 is
SE11 is the
Mhm.
transaction code.
Yes, you.
Enter the SE11 in command prompt. Here you can see different options for database tables, views, data types. Let's first check database tables. Here you can access standard database tables provided by SAP as part of the standard solutions, standard applications. You can access. For example, KNA1. What is this KNA1? Customer master data. It
Customer.
contains customer master details like customer number, sorry, customer ID. This is Kunar, right? KUNNR. This is a customer number. So it is a primary key. It's selected as primary key. Okay, it's selected as primary key so that you can maintain one unique record for each customer in this table. And it contains employee country, name, city, postal code, and all the other details of the, sorry, customer, not employee. Okay, it is a standard table. How you are saying that it's a standard table? Is it starting with Z or Y?
No.
No, right? It's
Yes.
a standard table provided by SAP. Okay, and these two are the primary keys. You can observe MANDT and KUNNR. Please remember what is the first field available here?
MANDIT.
MANDT. It is client. It is client. You can see when you in the login screen, right? Client number. That is the client, right? That is the value we are going to maintain in this client number. It is not a business field. It is not a business field. Don't consider it as a primary key for your table. Okay, don't consider it as a primary key in table, but still you can see this field in the table, right, as a primary key, but don't consider it as part of your actual database table. There is a special property. There is a special property for this MANDT field. MANDT nothing but client. Okay. Client dependent data, client independent data. A very important concept which we are going to discuss in the next session. Okay. But for now, don't consider MANDT as a primary key of your database table. What is the primary key here for this customer master data?
KUNNR.
KUNNR. KUNNR nothing but customer number. What is the data type? Character data type. What is the maximum length?
10.
10. So why these fields are different? Like Kunar, land one, name one.
Sir, these tables are predefined or
Predefined table. That's what I am saying. It's a standard table
okay.
provided by SAP.
How can we
Right?
remember the names?
See, by using these tables, you will automatically remember.
Okay.
Okay? You have
Okay.
to use all these table in your day-to-day life. You'll easily remember. Okay?
Sure, sir.
What is the table for customer master data? What is the table for customer master data?
KNA1.
KNA1, right? Now you are able to remember. After few days, you can learn more tables. Okay. So primary key is customer number. Why these field names are different? Why this not a customer or something? Initially, who developed this SAP system? Where it is developed?
For
German.
German, sir.
In Germany,
Ah,
right?
yeah.
So in
Yes.
Germany, they developed in their native language, German language. So all these fields, right? They are related to German language. Okay.
Yes, sir.
PSTLZ means postal code. STRAS, Strass means street. Okay, this all the whatever the field names you observe in the SAP tables, right? They are somehow related to German language. That's why field names are little different. Okay, so you can understand the field by description. Okay, customer number. So this is a standard table because it's not starting with Z or Y. Okay. We cannot change the standard tables. Please remember, we cannot change the standard tables, but we can add additional fields to the standard tables if required. That means we can enhance a standard table with additional custom fields if required. We'll see that in the next session. Okay. How to enhance a standard table with custom fields. Usually we do not change the standard tables. Okay. So what does a table contains? Primary
Yeah,
key in
some.
the columns and technical settings. Go to technical settings. So we provide the columns and we selected one field as a primary key and go to technical settings. What does it contains? Please observe these two options. Data class. Data class. What is this data class? This data class defines what type of data records you are creating. What type of data you are creating in this database table. Is it master data or transactional data? And there are few other types like right, organizational customizing data. Okay. So usually the business data we create either master data or transactional data. You need to define it. When you are creating a table, we need to define whether you are creating a table for master data or transactional data. APPL 0 for master data, APPL 1 for transactional data, APPL 2 for customizing data. Okay, mostly we use 0 and 1, APPL 1 and APPL 0 for master data and transactional data. Is everyone clear about table technical settings?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The size category, very important interview question. What is this size category? If you click on this F4, click on this, it will show some help here. 0 means size category value 0 means it allows records between 0 to 90. So the maximum number of records allowed to create in this table is 90. If you select 0, if you select 1, the maximum number of records allowed in this table is 390. Right? Here it is selected 3, right? What are the maximum number of records allowed? 6,200 records, maximum records allowed. So what is the use of this size category? What is the use of this size category? We define approximate number of records. Okay, we provide approximate number of records can be stored in a database table. Okay, why we need to define this limit? Where this database table is going to created? When we create the database table, where it will be actual, where it's going to be created actually?
Inside database.
Sorry.
The database, right?
Yes.
So every table needs some space or not. For example, when you take some picture in your mobile phone, is it going to occupy some space in your hard drive or not? Some 5 MB or 10 MB? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
It will occupy some space in your database, right? Similarly, when you create a table, you need to define some approximate space for your table in the database. Okay, some approximate space for the your table in the database. That is how you are defining the size category. Okay, you need to analyze what are the approximate number of records I am going to create in my database table. According to that, provide the proper size category. Okay, for example, you are trying to create an employee master table, right? What we need to analyze? What is the maximum strength currently available in my organization? For example, 1,000 employees are there. Okay, maybe in future another 1,000 employees might be added to our organization. So I'll provide my size category as 3, so it will accept up to 6,200 records, right? Select your approximate size category. Can you select 7 as size category in our scenario?
Depend on the requirement.
Depends on the requirement, but I told you a scenario, right? In my organization, there are 1,000 employees. I'm going to create a customer master table data for, employee master data for my employees. Is it okay to select size category 7?
No.
You just have 1,000 employees. Maybe in future, another 500 or 1,000 employees might be added. There's no possibility of adding 2 lakhs or 1 lakh employees, right? Within a short span of time.
Yes, sir.
If you select 7, what it will do? It will allow you to create a database table, but it will occupy lot of
Unnecessary.
unnecessary space in the database. Okay? Lot of unnecessary space in the database. Right? You are unnecessarily occupying the space even though you are not using it. Okay? That is why you should provide proper size category for the table so that you can save the database space. Okay? Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
It's a
But
clear.
can we change the size category once table
I'll
gets
tell you
created?
that. It's very important interview question. Please concentrate. Let's assume I've provided size category as 0. As per my initial analysis, it provides up to 100 records and I transported it to production. Now, already created. 100 records are already created. Need to create new records. Is it going to allow to create 101, 102 like more records? Because the 100 records are already created. I've provided size category as 0 for this table. Maximum limit of records are 100. The 100 records are already created. Is it going to allow more records to be created?
No.
No, I guess, sir. No.
It will.
Oh,
It's category. Yeah.
got it, sir.
It will automatically extend, right? It will automatically extend the size category to allow 100 more records when the limit is completed. It's not going to stop you. Okay? It's not going to stop you. You don't need to go into the table and change it. Okay? Is it clear? It's a very important
Yes, sir.
interview
Clear.
question. They'll ask about size category and they'll ask you immediately, they'll ask what happens if you, what happens if the limit is exhausted? Is it going to throw any error? Is it going to stop creating the records? No, it will allow new records, but it has to extend, right? One more size category before allowing new records. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Is it recommended? Then is it recommended to give 0? So that system will automatically extend it, right? Even though you need to create 1 million records in the table. Can we just give 0 and leave it so that system can keep on extending?
Mm,
What will happen if you provide 0 as size category and trying to insert 1 lakh records? For every 100 records, right? The system has to allocate one more size category and the program should wait until the next size category is available, right? To insert 1 lakh records into the table, the size category extension has to be executed many times, which will reduce the performance and increase the time of program execution, right? Yes or no?
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
To avoid this, we have to provide adequate size category by analyzing the data, by analyzing the requirement. You should not give too low, you should not give too high. Okay? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Once you defined it, you can change it anytime, but in general, You need to provide adequate size category, not too low, not too high. Okay. What is data class?
Type of the data.
Hmm.
We are going to store the inside of it.
So what happens is, if it is master data table, database will allocate one location for master data in the database. For transactional data, database will allocate separate location for transactional data tables. Okay, so that is why when we define a data class, it will provide you one specific location for master data tables, so that your database table will be allocated to that space in the database. Okay, if you are creating a transactional table, that will be allocated to a different location in the database. Okay, so that's why you need to provide what type of data you are creating. APPL0, APPL1, APPL0 for master data, APPL1 for transactional data. Okay, there is another types for customizing and everything. It's very important interview question. What is data class and size category? Okay, is everyone clear? Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
Let's create a simple table. Let's create a simple table, custom table. This is a standard table, right? Whatever I have shown you. Let's create a simple table. So what is the prerequisite to create any custom object in SAP?
Z or Y.
Z or Y,
Yes,
Z demo, some table I am creating, Z demo first. To separate the name, you can provide underscore. Okay, space is not accepted. Okay, create a table. Table name should be unique. Create a table. Provide the description of the database table. Demo table. Here, there is one important option you need to provide, delivery class. Delivery class in delivery and maintenance tab, you need to provide one important option, that is what type of table you are creating. Is it an application table? Application tables contains master and transactional data. Okay, so which we use for business transactions. That might be a master data table or application data table. So customizing table C. C is for system configurations. C is for system configurations. The rest of the tables are for system data and system configurations. For any of our business applications, we use A, delivery class A, with either it is a master data or transactional data. We call it as application data. Okay, application tables. That might be a master data or transactional data. Okay.
okay, sir.
We select A in general if you need to create any master data table or transactional data table. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Since we are creating some master table, let's assume we are creating some master data table. Select A for application data. Delivery and maintenance. This data browser. Delivery and this data browser option, right? Table view editing. Delivery and maintenance allowed with restrictions. If you restrict it, you cannot create data manually in the data dictionary. You cannot create data manually, some test data manually in the data dictionaries screen. Okay, display and maintenance allowed. Allow this display and maintain, so that you can create some records in the database table with here itself in the data dictionary itself. You don't need to use any program. Okay, um, display and maintenance allowed. If you select restrictions, it won't allow you to create any records in the database table. Okay, next. Date delivery class, what type of table you are creating? Is it application table, customization table? Okay, application tables are for master data and transactional data. Customization tables are for system configuration data. Okay. Now select the fields. What are the fields you are creating? What are the fields need to be available in your table? For example, EMP Data element concept we'll discuss in the next class. It's very important. For now, I need to enter the type of this field, right? What type of field it is? Go to built-in type. Go to built-in type so that here you can enter the data type. Click on this. You can see all available data types. This is character string, char. Okay, if you want to assign character, select character, char. In program level, we just use C, but here it is char. Okay, length. What is the maximum length of this employee ID? 10 decimal places, no decimal places. Provide the description, employee ID. Okay, so we created a field. Now tell me, is it a primary key field or non-primary key field? Always
Primary.
remember, the first column of the table should be a primary key, or the primary key column should be placed in the first position of the table. Okay, it's a primary key. I've selected it as a primary key. This is for null and not null. Okay, null and not null. If you select this, it won't allow any null values in the field. Okay, if you select this initial checkbox, okay, it won't allow any null values in the checkbox. Sorry, in the field. I'll show you more detail. The key is primary key. Key nothing but primary key. You know, right? What is a primary key? It will uniquely identify which one?
Provide the
Database
data.
records. Okay, it will uniquely identify the database records. First, let's save the table. Save it. It will ask for a package. What is a package? Package is a repository folder where we save the objects, including programs, tables, and everything. Okay. Here you can provide the some actual package name in the project, but for now we'll save in the local package. Okay, local object. Select local object as a package. Okay, employee ID. There is one column in the table. Okay. So what I did, I provided a name for the table, provide the description, maintain delivery class, that is for application table, and delivery and maintenance allowed. And in the fields, I've provided the fields and selected first column as a primary key, and enter the rest of the columns. EMP name, employee name. Go to built-in type to enter the data type, char. You can also select from this F4 help. I'll assign 40, employee name. Okay, city, char 40, provide the field description, phone. Can we take character for phone number?
No.
Numc, numerical text. Numc means n. Okay, we take n for the phone number. Okay, now I've provided the fields. I've selected my primary key. Now records will be maintained by using employee ID as a unique value. Okay, it won't allow multiple records with same employee ID. Now save it again. This information is displaying because we are not using MA in DT. What is MA and DT?
Client dependent.
Client, the client field. That's a client field. We are not using it. That is not mandatory to use. But if we don't use, this table acts as a client dependent table. So the data, whatever we created in one client, is not visible to the other client. Table metadata, the table name they can access, but they cannot see records whatever we created in this table in this client in a when they try to access the same table in a different client. Tomorrow I'll explain in detail. Now I provided the fields. These are the fields required. Next, what is the next thing we need to do? We need to define what type of data we are going to create, right? Where we need to do that?
Technical settings.
Technical settings. Select data class. Here, wherever you see this star, right, asterisk symbol, red color, that means that is a mandatory value to be provided. Okay? Without that mandatory value, you cannot proceed further. Data class. I'm creating employee master data. That's why I'm selecting APPL 0. Okay? What is the size category? In the KNA1 table, what is the size category allocated for 0? I think 90 records, right? Max is 90 records, right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now let's check the size category available here for 0. How many records?
3000.
Size category will vary from table to table, depends on the number of columns available in the table and what is the length of the each column and what is the data type of the each column. For example, there are 100 columns in my this table, right? With data types as character and length 30, 40, 60. So automatically size category limit will be reduced because it's going to occupy more size, right? In the database, if you have multiple fields with more size, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Since I have only 4 columns in the table, right? Since I have only 4 columns in the table, it will occupy only less space in the database table. That's why the size category limit is more here, up to 3000 records. But if you observe in the KNA1 table, customer master table, there are more than 100 columns in the table. The size category limit what is provided there is 90 for 0, right? So the size category will vary depends on based on the table columns and data types. Okay. So it is allowing 3000 records. Yeah, that is sufficient for me. I'm selecting 0 as my size category and save it. And we need to go through one important thing here, database specific properties, column store versus row store tables. Column store versus row store tables. These are introduced in HANA database, S4 HANA, right? As part of HANA database, these are introduced. In ECC, you cannot find this option, column store and row store. By default, all ECC tables are row store tables. In any traditional database, right? Tables are row store. I'll provide detailed information about column store tables and row store tables in a separate session. Okay. Save this, save the technical settings, check the table, no inconsistencies found, and activate the table. Select your table and activate. Rest of these objects are some inactive objects. So your table is active. Is it active or not?
Active.
Now we just created technical information of the table, some metadata. To create the actual data, we may need to create one program to accept the inputs and insert the data into database table, right? That is one thing. Or we can manually create some test records in the table itself. How to create?
What do utilities?
Table contents, go to utilities, table contents, and create entries. Create entries. So it will provide you a screen to enter the data. For example, 100. Enter the employee name, city, some phone number, and click on save to save this record. To enter one more record, reset it 101. Okay, save it. So I've created 2 records, right? Go back to the table. Now, how I need to check the records available in the table? This one, contents, or you can also find it in utilities, table contents, display. You can also click this, and this is the shortcut. Contents is the shortcut. Click on number of entries. How many records are there in the table?
2.
Two records. I have created two records. Execute. Yeah, press F8 or execute F8. So these are the two records available in my database tables. Okay. It maintains record by employee ID as a primary key. Let's try to create one more record. With the same employee ID but with different details. Is it going to allow? Save it. What it is saying? A data record with the specified key is already exists. Okay, because employee ID 100 is already there. So here we can check the contents and number of records available in the table. You can also filter the data by providing the value employee ID 100 and execute. So it will display only that specific value. Have you observed something? There is one leading zero here for phone number. Why? The property of the numerical data type is if you don't provide any value, it will populate with zeros, leading zeros. For example, the total length of the phone number is 10, but you entered only 8 numbers. The rest of the two numbers it populates with leading zeros. That is the property of number data. Okay, is everyone clear? So try to create one simple table. This is a simple example of creating a database table. We can read this data using a program. We can keep the data into our data objects. Okay. So like in the next session, we are going to create more examples like using database tables. We'll try to create some meaningful tables, right? We'll see advanced options available in the database tables. Okay. Tomorrow is very important class. Please recap all your previous sessions before, right?
Okay.